I never thought being abandoned would lead me to a family of unexpected heroes. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that wrapped around me like a dark cloud. I stood on the steps of my old house, heart racing. My parents were gone. Just like that. A note left behind, scrawled in a hurried hand. "We can't do this anymore." My fingers trembled as I dropped it, a lump forming in my throat. All I could hear was silence. Empty echoes of a love that once filled every corner of this space. The walls felt closer, as if they were suffocating me, closing in every breath I took. My world crumbled in an instant. I was alone, lost. My chest tightened as the gravity of my situation crashed down on me, a teenager abandoned, left staring at a door that would never open again. As I wandered through the streets, each step felt heavier than the last. Whispers brushed against my ears like a chilling wind. People glanced at me with pity. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a store window, tears glistening like shattered glass on my cheeks. I was just a shadow of myself. Days turned into weeks, and the ache transformed into a dull roar. I found myself in new places, strange faces, familiar smiles that never reached their eyes. I wanted to belong, to be part of something again. In my darkest moments, I dreamed of heroes, those from comic books, strong and brave, the ones who always triumphed. Then, fate took an unexpected turn. A kind woman with a warm voice took me under her wing. Her name was Margot, and with her were others, each holding a piece of a hidden story. There was Leo, with a mischievous grin and scars of battles fought, the twins Nina and Max, whispering secrets of the shadows they had lived in, and Arya, whose haunting melody could make the hardest heart weep. Together, we formed an alliance. Unlikely heroes, just as I had always imagined. They shared their dreams with me, introduced me to the thrill of spontaneity, laughter echoing into the night. Each moment was alive, pulsing with the hope I thought I had lost forever. But beneath it all, a dark undercurrent stirred. Who were they really? What had brought them here? Were we brought together by chance, or was this some grand design? I felt a growing bond, but also a nagging feeling. Secrets lay just beyond the edges of their smiles. Then came the night of the storm, lightning blazing across the sky, illuminating our fears. We gathered in the living room, heartbeats drumming a frantic rhythm. And that's when Margot revealed a truth that sent shivers down my spine. "We're more connected than you know," she whispered, voice trembling with urgency. My heart raced. Questions swirled in my mind. Had they faced the same shadows I had? I could feel the air thicken with unspoken stories, each one begging to be uncovered. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The storm raged outside, winds howling like forlorn spirits. My heart pounded in my chest, a wild drum playing a tune of anxiety and curiosity. "What do you mean, Margot?" I finally breathed, my voice betraying the tremor coursing through me. "What are you saying?" The room was heavy with uncertainty, each flicker of the candlelight casting dancing shadows across faces etched with concern. Margot locked eyes with me, resolve shimmering in her gaze. "We're all running from something. Things that link us in ways we don't yet understand." A pit formed in my stomach as I processed her words. With every heartbeat, my mind raced to grasp their meaning. Hidden pasts, unspoken ties. Were we connected by mere happenstance? Or was there a thread of destiny weaving us together? "What do you mean, linked? What are you all hiding?" I demanded, a mix of anger and fear bubbling to the surface. Would I be abandoned again, cast aside into the unknown? Leo stepped forward, the mischief in his eyes replaced by sincerity. "We've all had our fair share of pain, trust me. But it's not about our pasts. It's about what we choose to do with them now." There was a weight to his words, a promise hidden in the depths as if they were a key to understanding this fractured alliance. Nina and Max exchanged glances, their twin connection thickening the atmosphere. It was as if they shared a silent pact, a bond deeper than blood. You told us about your parents, Max began softly. We want you to know that we've been through our own storms. You're not alone in this. Tears pricked at my eyes, a tragedy and relief blending into a bittersweet mixture. But what if this is just another shelter? What if it all just crumbles down again? My voice wavered, leaving a vulnerable thread hanging in the air. The storm's fury echoed my inner chaos. Suddenly, Arya broke into a soft song, her voice weaving through the tension like a gentle caress. It was haunting and ethereal, pulling us all into its embrace, reminding us of the beauty that can exist even amidst chaos. We can't change our history, she murmured, her eyes gleaming like polished stones. But we can create a new story together if you'll let us. In that moment, with the storm raging against the windows, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. Would it be enough? Could we actually forge a family from these broken pieces of ourselves? I didn't know, but my heart yearned for an answer. Margot reached out, placing her hand atop mine, grounding me in the swirling tempest of emotion. You're part of us now, she said, her voice steady and true. No matter what scars you carry, we'll figure this out. Together. Before I could respond, a loud crash shook the house. The electricity flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. The storm seemed to intensify, anger spilling over in the expanse of night. I felt the room shift, a collective intake of breath as we huddled closer, lights extinguished but hearts desperately clinging to the flicker of hope ignited moments ago. Then came the unmistakable sound of shattering glass. My stomach dropped as we exchanged fearful glances, the outside danger encroaching on our fragile sanctuary. Stay here, Leo ordered, his voice a mix of bravado and concern as he moved toward the nearest window, peering into the chaos outside. Panic began to swirl again, this time mixing with the dread of the unknown. What threat lingered out there, beyond the sanctuary we had sought? As I watched Leo navigate the darkened room, a thought struck me. What if whatever was out there was connected to us too? What if this storm was merely a reflection of the turmoil brewing within our hearts? Just then, the door crashed open, rattling on its hinges, revealing a silhouette framed by flashes of lightning. My breath hitched, primal fear slicing through the bittersweet yearning for connection that had slowly taken root inside me. Who's there? Margot shouted, her voice a fierce protector, cutting through the darkness as we instinctively gathered together, wings of an unlikely family forming against the encroaching storm. In that instant, the only thing I could think was that perhaps abandonment had led my heart into a place of unexpected kinship, yet the deepest secrets still lay tangled in the shadows. And someone, or something, was about to reveal them in ways I couldn't ever have prepared for. As the figure stepped into the dim room, illuminated by flashes of lightning, my heart raced with an urgent mix of fear and hope. The stranger's face remained mostly obscured, though I could see the glints of determination in their eyes, which bore a striking resemblance to some of the emotions swirling within our ragtag group. My instinct screamed for caution, but curiosity and a glimmer of familiarity kept my feet rooted in place. What do you want? Leo demanded, his posture tense, ready to leap forward if necessary. The vulnerability of our connection hung in the balance, and danger was a fickle master. I could feel adrenaline coursing through my veins, a reflection of the mingling worries and desires within me. Please, I'm not here to cause trouble, the stranger replied, their voice strained yet soothing, like a balm over a fresh wound. I need to talk to you specifically to you. Eyes widened and brows furrowed. Who are you? I heard my own voice, shaky but firm as I approached, instinctively wanting to protect the new bond we had begun to forge amidst chaos. Just someone who knows the truth about all of you, they said, lifting their head slightly. A flicker of recognition ignited in my gut. I had seen that face before, yet it was an echo of my past, long buried and haunted by unfulfilled questions. What truth? Max's voice cut through the tension, his protective instincts blurring through with confusion. I could hear the twins tremble lightly next to me, their silent bond flaring as worry rippled between them. The stranger stepped further into the light, revealing sharp cheekbones and deep shadows in their eyes, a stranger knit from the fabric of my memories. Your parents. They wanted to keep you safe, they said, the words scraping against the walls of my carefully constructed defenses. They didn't abandon you. They made a choice. Emotions twisted within me. Confusion reigned supreme as fragments of my childhood felt like slippery phantoms. What do you mean? My voice was much softer now, an involuntary plea woven into the question. They were trying to protect you from their past, from a darkness that nearly consumed them. The stranger leaned slightly forward, their gaze steady. There's so much more to the story, beyond what you think you know. Far away, the storm howled with renewed vigor, drowning my racing heart in despair. I felt the air thicken as the weight of their revelation grounded me, reality colliding with perception. Were my parents alive? Had they been protecting me all along? Or was this just another cruel lie wrapped in layers of hope? Nina wrapped an arm around me, sensing my internal struggle. You don't have to listen to this, she whispered, her voice a protective shield amid the brewing storm. But I was drawn in, ensnared by the magnetism of potential answers that could perhaps untangle my grief. Please, you have to trust me. Your lives are intertwined in ways that you cannot yet comprehend, the stranger implored, intensity swirling in their gaze. There's a pact, a connection that has always been there, and it's deeper than blood. The tension thickened as I glanced at my friends, their expressions torn between disbelief and intrigue. Were we ready to unearth more buried truths, or would we be buried beneath their weight? A knot formed in my throat as I sought comfort in their presence, the family I had only begun to embrace. Why now? I asked, a cautious edge lacing my words. Why reveal this to us during a storm, when we're at our most vulnerable? The stranger hesitated, the flicker of uncertainty betraying them. Because the storm isn't just meteorological. It's part of something bigger, something tied to your origins. You're not merely running. You're being hunted. My stomach dropped at the implication. Hunted? Had I drawn some unseen foe closer by rekindling my connections with these extraordinary people? The revelation hung like a storm cloud overhead, threatening to burst and consume us all. Enough, Leo shouted, his voice strained, cutting through the ominous silence. If you know so much, then tell us what we can do to protect ourselves. Embrace what you've started here, the stranger urged softly, gesturing toward the gathering of our ragged family. You cannot do this alone. You need each other for strength and for hope. And you cannot waver. As fear clawed at the corners of my mind, the softened glances from my friends reminded me of the bond we had nurtured amidst chaos. I found solace in the thought that perhaps we could face whatever was lurking together. But as the stranger hesitated again, something shifted in their eyes, casting a shadow over their earnest expression. You all must be ready, they warned, voice trembling with gravity. Because once the storm subsides, something formidable will come for you. We collectively inhaled, the weight of their words settling heavy upon us. As flickers of candlelight cast ghostly apparitions upon the walls, I knew then that stormy nights cloaked more than raindrops, as secrets lay layered like fragile shells waiting to crack. Each heartbeat echoed in time with the storm outside, urging us closer to a truth that could shatter or save. That I met the gazes of my companions, feeling hope and trepidation entwined in unexpected kinship, vying against the looming terror. And so, against the tumultuous backdrop of thunderous proclamations, I realized that our story was evolving. Imminent revelations ready to collide with a history we had yet to untangle. Just then, a deafening crash rang from outside, nearly drowning out my racing thoughts, sending shivers down my spine. Little did we know, the storm was merely the beginning of our unfolding destiny, urging our hearts to brace for whatever specter awaited on the other side. The wind howled like a mournful spirit as we stood in the dim light, hearts thudding in unison with the storm wielding its rage outside. The stranger's words clung to the air like smoke, heavy and suffocating. I felt the churning emotions swirling within me, fear for my friends, fear for the unknown, and a strange, reluctant hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the key to unlocking the mysteries of my past. Please, I murmured, eyes darting around the room, lingering on each familiar face, desperately searching for reassurance that everything would be okay. You have to tell us what we're facing. Leo clenched his jaw, glancing at Nina, who bit her lip as she shot me an encouraging look. The twins stood closely together, whispering to one another, their soft words of fleeting comfort against the uncertainty wrapping around us like a thick fog. There's a time to fight and a time to listen, the stranger continued, gaze unwavering. But first, we need to prepare you. Tonight is not just a storm, it's a reckoning. Tension crackled in the air, and with it, the weight of unsaid words hung heavily in the dimly lit room. A moment passed in silence, the flickering candles offering slender beams of light as the shadows danced around us like ominous figures, specters of our fears. "Who are you?" Max asked sharply, breaking the trance. "Why should we trust you?" The stranger's face transformed into a mask of pain. "Because I am your past, and if you don't understand it, you won't see the danger approaching." Even as they spoke, the storm outside grew more tumultuous, a raging choir of thunder and wind crescendoing in a triumphant overture to our fears. "Why now?" I repeated more firmly, pushing through the dark wall of anxiety that had formed around my heart. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to see," the stranger replied, the anguish in their voice creeping into my chest as if squeezing my heart with a wrenching grasp. "You have the power to break the cycle of pain, but you must first embrace the truth of your lineage." Pain lanced through me at their words. A lineage steeped in darkness, one I had always longed to escape, now lay before me as a solemn, unspeakable inheritance. "What if I don't want that?" The stranger stepped closer, their expression softening. "You don't have to want it," they said, "but the storm is already stirring within you. Your parents knew you had the potential for great courage and great darkness. Just like them. It's a choice that will define the path forward." As their words sunk in, I felt a tremor run through me, a whisper of defiance clashing with old wounds. I could not deny the call within my spirit, urging me to stand and fight despite the fear saturating my veins. But how could I begin to reconcile such a terrifying fate? Suddenly, a crack of lightning illuminated the room, and in that blinding instant, I caught a glimpse of the figure's face, a family resemblance I could no longer ignore. They weren't merely a stranger. They were a tangible piece of my history, my identity. An ache resonated within me, but it was less a wound and more the ignition of something transformative. In the momentary illumination, I saw my friends' frightened expressions, the way they rallied together, fear etched in their features, yet a flicker of determination sparked behind their eyes. "Well, face this together," I breathed, conviction rising in my voice. "Look," the stranger interrupted, urgency flooding their tone. "It's more than just a reckoning. There's a force hunting you down, manifesting through shadows and sorrow. You must prepare for the inevitable." Nina opened her mouth to speak, but before she could form words, a violent gust of wind slammed against the door, rattling our fragile fortress. The candles flickered wildly, shadows leaping against the walls as the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the storm's roar, sharp and deliberate. "They're here," the stranger hissed, urgency clutching their voice as they moved closer, pulling us into a protective circle. "You must hold tight to one another. Trust in what you've formed. The bond cannot be broken, even by the fiercest storm." The air grew thick as the shadows converged at the door, creating a suffocating mass of darkness. Panic bubbled beneath the surface, each heartbeat a rhythm of dread. But it was also a call to arms, a signal for the heroes hidden within each of us. That we clenched our hands tighter, a cocoon of warmth and strength enveloping me as the shadows coiled. I was terrified, but there was clarity in this moment. No matter the storm brewing outside, I felt a swell of undeniable hope ripple within my chest. Together, I breathed, locking eyes with each of my friends, seeing the glimmers of resolve and courage reflected back at me. The door rattled violently again, thunder crashing like an explosion, and then it splintered open, wide enough for shadows to spill into the room like liquid night. A dozen figures loomed beyond the threshold, their intentions cloaked but their energy radiating malice. And as they stepped forward, revealing a chilling familiarity that sent shivers down my spine, I realized with dawning horror that this was just the beginning of our battle. "Stay together," Leo's voice called, grounding us in solidarity as we stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face the encroaching darkness with everything we had, even as the unknown loomed larger than the storm itself. The shadows shuffled closer, their forms indistinct but palpable, feeding on the darkness that engulfed us. My breath caught as I struggled to find the strength to face the figures who possessed a familiarity I couldn't yet comprehend. Panic threatened to claw its way up my throat, but the presence of my friends kept me anchored. Focus, the stranger urged, their calm piercing through the thickening dread. Remember what binds you together. With an almost primal instinct, we formed a tighter circle, intertwining our fingers as if forging a lifeline barrier against the gathering storm. Each pulse of energy from our held hands reverberated through the fears wrapped around us, offering a sliver of courage amidst the chaos. The figures advanced, their movement fluid and unnerving, as if they were phantoms summoned from the depths of a forgotten past. It's not just a storm, but a reckoning, the stranger reminded us. They are the echoes of what you might becoming a mirror for your darkest potential. Who are they? Max spat, voice trembling between rage and fear. Why are they coming for us? The air crackled, charged with uncertainty, even as the stranger's response was lost beneath a surge of wind that howled through the shattered doorframe. They are the shadows of your legacy, they said, a manifestation of the battles your lineage has fought. Each one of you is a key, but whether that unlocks victory or despair is yet to be determined. Great. That clears everything up. Leo bit back, his voice laced with sarcasm, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. And then, they stepped into the light, shadows coalescing into figures I recognized from my nightmares' familiar faces, each cruel twist of fate echoing through our intertwined destinies. I gasped, the air leaving my lungs and leaving behind a hollow ache. There they stood, reflections of my past, my bloodline mingled with a chilling aura that set my skin alight with dread. Why must they haunt us? Nina whispered, her voice trembling. Because they are the choices not made, the stranger replied solemnly, glancing at the advancing figures, their gaze filled with a mixture of fear and fervent resolve. A figure, its face indistinct yet insidiously recognizable, stepped forward. You can join us, it hissed, alluring temptation filtering through the air. You don't have to fight anymore. You can surrender to the pain and become powerful beyond your wildest dreams. An involuntary shudder coursed through me, the weight of temptation palpable. No, I shouted, and the words echoed off the cold walls. I refuse to embrace that darkness. That refusal is commendable, the stranger murmured, but the choice is never easy. Bolstered by my defiance, I turned to my friends, looking into their eyes for the spark of courage that I hoped still resided there. We can sway this. We can change our fate, I breathed, connecting us with a silent vow that resonated between us, a bond that felt unbreakable against the tide of shadows that a faint flicker illuminated the dimness, the strength of our unity casting a beam of light into the suffocating gloom. I found Leo's steadfast gaze, Nina's fierce determination, and the twins' unyielding loyalty reflected back at me. It ignited within me a flicker of hope, just a spark but enough to wish it into flame. Together, I repeated, clutching their hands with renewed urgency. The shadows grew closer, their whispers weaving through the air, promises of power mingling with threats of despair, but the fear began to blur into clarity. Defiance was rising. The first figure lunged, dark tendrils unfurling like angry flames. But we were ready. I felt the surge of power coil within me, a raw and wild instinct ignited by our shared resolve. The figure's attack fell against an invisible barrier as our hands connected in defiant strength, warmth encasing each of USA protective cocoon wards off the darkness that I won't let you take us. I cried, as the shadows recoiled against the force that bound us together, and with that declaration, an unexpected warmth blossomed at our feet. There, within the churning darkness, the ground shimmered with a radiant glow, a pulsating heartbeat feeding off our courage. Glimmering images rose from the aura, past, present, and possible futures flashing before our eyes like echoes of what we could become. But just as this glimmer of hope surged, the figures recoiled, their twisted faces a tableau of rage and vulnerability. You think this will protect you? One of the figures spat, and a wave of despair washed over Minute from the shadow itself. But from the panic lodged deep within in that moment, a truth crashed into me, heavy and real. As much as I fought, my shadows inherited a piece of my past. Each figure represented a part of me, a chapter of my life that I wished to deny. each stirring a tempest of emotions, memories of abandonment mingling with betrayal and lost. I screamed inwardly, the weight of raw recognition crashing down like a tidal wave. The figures began to chant, their voices a collage of anguish and sorrow, and I realized they weren't just calling for me. They were calling for anyone who had ever felt lost. They were the embodiment of unity twisted by pain, and we were as much their legacy as they were mine. In the instant, I felt a sharp jolt from the stranger beside me, who had been momentarily silent, their head snapping towards me, the veil of anguish lifting from their face. "Trust your heritage," they urged, desperation clawing at their words as if fearing an unforeseen tragedy. "You must confront and connect with them." But as those words drummed through me, I was seized by an all-consuming fear. How could I confront my past when all I had fought for was to run and escape it? My heart stuttered in that moment, a tempest brewing not just outside, but within. Uncertainty flooded my veins, the ground beneath us shuddered, and everything spiraled out of control. The light dimmed, shadows elongating as though sensing my hesitation. Together, I murmured to my friends, but with my heart splintering, I wondered if even unity could withstand the insurmountable weight of the past. And then it happened. A blinding flash erupted from our delicate circle, a wave of light that spilled into the shadows. I felt the connections waver, our grip loosening, the ground heaving beneath us as the shadows surged forward, eager to tear us apart. A shocking realization pierced through me. We didn't act. We would be consumed whole by what we feared most. With a sharp inhale that shattered the suffocating silence around us, I braced myself against the piercing shadows, knowing that whatever was coming next would redefine not just our fates, but the very essence of who we were meant to become. And as I stood there, battling doubt while heartbeats thundered in the chaos, I realized this reckoning was only just beginning, and the battle for my identity had only started. The darkness throbbed like a living thing as I stood, trying to hold that fragile circle of light, but the reality of our situation hit me like a freight train. A cold sweat broke out across my brow as the shadows closed in, summoned by the hesitation I felt in my gut. I had always thought of bravery as some grand act of heroism, charging into battle, facing down an enemy. But this was different. This was vulnerability, and it terrified me more than any monster lurking in the dark. "Look inside," the stranger urged, their voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. "There is strength in your heritage. You don't have to fight them alone." I glanced at my friends, their faces strained but resolute. Leo's jaw was set, fists clenched, determination flaring in his eyes despite the terror winding its way through the air. Nina was focused, her brow furrowed in concentration, as if she were willing the shadows to listen to our plea. Even Max, who had faced his demons with words rather than fists, was rooted to the spot, awaiting my action. But how could I look inside when the shadows breathed down my neck, each one beckoning with a twisted smile that chilled my bones? This was not mere horror. This was the inner turmoil of every abandoned child, every forsaken dream I had ever buried, clawing their way back to the surface. The fear that loomed over me was a manifestation of betrayal, a feeling unworthy of love and connection that I squeezed my friend's hands tighter, fear and courage warring within me. Every heartbeat was a reminder that our ties to each other ran deep. "We're in this together," I whispered, the words barely a confession. Suddenly, the figure closest to Meth, one that felt hauntingly familiar, leaned forward, its face glimmering through the haze. "You think unity will save you? What's to stop them from abandoning you too?" It hissed, sharp and bitter like the taste of copper on my tongue. My core trembled at the accusation, memories of my own solitude flooding my mind. I could feel their weight, the abandonment of childhood friends, mentors who vanished, love that slipped through my fingers. A darkness threatened to surge beneath it, an empty chasm craving something more. But in that depth of despair, a flicker ignited. "No," I shouted, and the sound shattered the oppressive atmosphere. "You can't have me. You can't take them." My voice rose, trembling yet resolute, as a swell of warmth spread between our clasped hands. We stood together in this storm, a fragile formation against the shadows whispering their despair. Our bonds gave life to a glow that pulsed defiantly, pushing against the encroaching figures, The air thickened as the shadows writhed in response, their sinister whispers drowning out my resolve, threatening to pull me under. But then there was a feeling, a spark of recognition that surged from my heart. Trust, I repeated, the word rising to the surface like a lifeline. Remember what you can change, the stranger urged softly, and their voice ignited an ember of understanding within me that a sense of belonging took root, and the flicker of hope bloomed into a bright flame. These shadows, they're not just mine. My voice steadied, and I looked into the eyes of my friends. They're the reminders of our struggles, our losses. But they're also reflections of what we can become. Our collective story. Nina's eyes lit up, her grip tightening around my hand. What if we challenge them with our truth? What if we reveal every memory that forged us? In that instant, the shadows screeched, recoiling from the power of our collective insight, our history wanting to be unveiled rather than concealed. Embrace us, one of the figures moaned, a turbulent mix of anguish and longing. We are what defines you, whether you like it or not. And now, in this swirling maelstrom of whispers, something shifted. Each friend began to muse on their past, their histories intertwining into a dance of pain and beauty, of acceptance and refusal. One moment, Max shouted into the storm, sparks of inspiration erupting in his irises. My father left told me I wasn't enough. But that made me fight harder for what I wanted. I refused to be defined by abandonment. Yes, Nina added, the conviction in her voice blossoming like a flower of defiance amid the shadows swirling hungrily. My sister betrayed me, but that taught me about loyalty and sincerity. I am not just her abandoned shadow. As we each bared our shadows to the light, illuminating our truths, the chill that had seeped into our bones began to thaw. The shadows twitched, uncertain, struggling against the force of our collective fury and acceptance. The tremor spread beneath our feet, as lights flared in the darkness, revealing memories woven with laughter and love and friendship matched with pain and loss. The strength of our histories became an anger against the shadows that sought to consume us. But just as I felt we had found our footing, the ground shifted violently, and a grave rumble resonated through the air. You think this is enough? You haven't even scratched the surface. One echoed, warning heavy in their tone that I gasped as the night exploded around us. And for a moment, I feared we were losing the fragile ground we built. No, we can't let them win, I murmured to the circle, fear coursing through me like electricity. The memories we unearthed had unveiled light, but the darkness still loomed, hungry for despair and ready to strike. But then the stranger stepped forward, holding out an unyielding hand toward the encroaching figures. Not yet, they declared, grounded in an authority that made the shadows flicker. Together, you hold the power to walk a different path. You are more than your pain. Your family isn't merely a reflection of those who left. It is defined by the connections you keep. The shadows paused for a breath, their sinister forms wavering in the presence of insight. The air thickened with uncertainty, and my heart raced at the palpable shift. Together, I rallied once more, feeling the warmth of our connection anchoring us amid the chaos. Let's show them who we really are and what we stand for. And as I uttered those words, a cacophony erupted from the shadows, a frantic, haunting chorus that promised wrath and deep-seated fear. I felt an icy chill slide down my spine, but I stood my ground as the reality of our situation sank in. As we braced ourselves against the looming storm, a blinding flash lit up the wretched figures. But in that moment, the shadows surged forward, their tendrils reaching toward us, spinning out of control. I knew this was only the beginning. The real fight awaited with every heartbeat, the cost of which I could only begin to fathom. And just as I prepared to intertwine our destinies once again, a single thought gripped me like a vice. What if this reckoning was not merely against darkness, but a path that would unravel everything I knew and loved? The shadows stretched and twisted like a living tapestry, and for a fleeting moment, the glimmer of light we conjured flickered uncertainly before our resolve. I felt the weight of possibility mingling with dread. Each heartbeat screamed a different question, a dark confusion whispering, what if this was an illusion too fragile to withstand the truth? Hold on tight, Leo shouted, his voice the anchor against the rising tide of despair. Remember why we're here. His words felt distant, yet they traveled like a lifeboat through the storm. It was a reminder, a tether to the unity we fought to foster. But the shadows surged, undulating with a hunger that was almost palpable. They wanted our fear. They thrived on whispers of insecurity, ready to devour any flicker of hope we mustered. As the shadows crept closer, I could see faces forming within the dark. Each one carried a history I recognized, but never understood, faces of friends long gone, dreams trampled under the weight of expectations, and memories of laughter that faded into echoes. They morphed into desperate figures, each one crying out for acknowledgement, for a voice amidst a torrent of silence. "Look," Nina's voice broke through my reverie, her fingers trembling. "It's like they're telling our stories." It felt like a puncture wound in my spirit, revealing wounds I thought long buried. Their presence sent a shiver racing down my spine. The ambiguity mirrored my worst fears. Who was I to stand against something so deeply entwined with my being? I fought to compose my thoughts, summoning strength from that glimmering ember inside. "We have to confront them," I declared, although the tremor in my voice betrayed more than I intended. But before we could act, the figures rose from the ground, coiling around us, the dark energy saturating the space with a sense of foreboding. Then, like rolling thunder, a deep voice resonated through the air. "You think you can rewrite your story? You are bound by us. The memories you shove aside, the pain you bury, they are the chains you bear. Chains you made." Max shouted, his confidence wavering only slightly. "You're wrong. We won't let you define our lives any longer. Listen," I yelled, desperate for clarity and connection. "We honor those who hurt us by choosing a different path, one rooted not in lies and abandonment, but in the friendships we've built, the love we've found." With each word, I felt our group pulse with raw energy. The warmth that wrapped around our hands sparked new flames of resistance. But the shadows sank lower, dark coils spiraling like a maelstrom, consuming the light fiercely. "You cannot change who you are. You cannot change what happened." In that moment, paralyzing doubt clawed at my heart. What if it's true? I thought, memories flooding back, each heartbreak, every lonely hour, all the times I felt invisible. The weight grew heavier, trying to crush my spirit into submission. Just then, a breeze flared through the gloom, lifting the edge of my consciousness, and I remembered something my grandmother taught me long ago. Pain is not the end. She had said that in every hardship lies a lesson, a glimmer of truth waiting to be born. It was both beautiful and devastating that we are not here to change the past, I declared, forcing my mind to clear the haze. We're here to reclaim our narrative. As I spoke, something inside shifted. Memories raw and powerful began erupting amongst us. They were painful but enlightening, distant yet sharp. Laughter born from resilience, dreams shaped by adversity. I could see flashes of color slicing through the shadows, illuminating the path we had walked together. But then, from within the darkness, I heard another voice, a haunting echo that sent chills dancing along my spine. And what of those still lost? What of the bonds that broke unceremoniously, the scars we carry in silence? The shadows shifted, revealing more faces, darker memories, inflicted wounds that stirred uncomfortably within me. My breath faltered, and doubt crept back in. Were we simply fighting illusions? Was it wrong to hope when so much remained unhealed? "Stay strong," Nina urged, her eyes locking on mine with unwavering faith. "The truth may hurt, but it can also heal. We have to remember them as they were, but also let them go. They do not shape us, we shape ourselves. Together," Leo shouted, joining her fervor, squeezing my hand until I felt warmth suffuse my veins once more. Their strength ignited something deep inside me, a possibility that propelled us further. If awakened by our unity, the shadows surged, their forms buckling under the weight of our determination. "You cannot erase us," they screamed, feral and desperate. "You may attempt to rise above, but we are rooted in your bones." Just then, something shifted. The ground beneath our feet trembled as if a crack was forming. The shadows withdrew for a moment, swirling restlessly, and in that brief respite, I saw what lay behind their cries. Beneath the chaos and despair was a longing, a yearning for connection like ours. "Show me your truth," I cried into the growing void, feeling the pulse of our bond radiate against the darkness. "Let us share pain and healing. Invite the recognition that you were part of us too. The shadows hovered, hesitating for a heartbeat, and an unfamiliar quiet blanketed the tumult. Hope licked at my nerves, mingling with fear as I gestured towards them once more. But in that heavy silence, the earth quaked violently. A crack tore through the ground, sprawling chaos wide. You will regret this. The mantra echoed, and then they all surged towards me, desperate in their rage, hunting for the light we had gained. That I stood my ground, heart racing, hands clasped tightly with my friends even as the darkness loomed ahead. Was this moment truly the end of our progress, or the catalyst for something more? And as the shadows reached a fervent crescendo, I felt a gust of wind churning at our backs, a profound jolt of energy igniting the space. And I realized, suddenly and terrifyingly, that the answers I sought may not lie solely in the confrontation before me, but in a realm I had yet to understand. And then it struck me like a bolt of lightning: what if the shadows were not just foes, but a part of our story we had yet to comprehend? The realization sent a shiver through me, urging me to brace for the depth of the journey that lay ahead. The ground was still trembling beneath our feet, a chaotic heartbeat resonating with the turbulence of our emotions. My body felt tethered to the moment as time stretched into an intangible loop. The shadows writhed before us, dark tendrils wrapping around our ankles, eager to claim the light that flickered within. "Look," Leo called out between gasps, his voice strained but resolute. "There's more. Look at the colors." Pulsing like an invisible current, remnants of warmth began to seep from the deepest parts of the shadows. They glistened like starlight breaking through a heavy veil, revealing the memories that had been buried. I blinked, and suddenly I was enveloped in the vivid tapestry. I found myself staring into the face of a much younger version of myself, eyes bright and bursting with unencumbered dreams. Laughter rang in my ears like a joyful melody, shadowed by faint whispers of sadness. Right behind me stood memories of my father, his laugh echoing through the hall as he twirled me around, his embrace a haven of safety. "Stop!" I cried, unable to discern if I was remembering, reliving, or conjuring these moments. "You can't take these memories away from me. The truth is heavier than shadows," the dark chorus whispered, a fusion of dismay and derision wrapping around my thoughts. "These moments shaped you, but you weren't strong enough to protect their essence. You let them slip through your fingers. I didn't let go willingly." The words spilled from my lips as I fought to steel my heart against the floodgate of buried emotion. "We all had to move on. How could I carry every bit of pain with me?" "Yes, but there lies the burden of your choice," they countered, satisfaction lacing their tone. "You compressed the love, the joy, into memories twisted with grief." With a thunderous sound, the shadows morphed, revealing faces of those I loved, yet lost friends drifting away, romances waning. Each visage swirled within the darkness, their eyes pleading for acknowledgement, slicing through my resolve with their silent screams. Something inside me ached at their loss. Each flicker of recognition was a reminder that despite my growth, I was forever haunted by the questions. Had I done enough? Had I really let them go? Then Nina's voice shattered the haunting echo of despair. "No, we can't let them win," she urged, pushing back the shadows with sheer determination. "What we carry isn't just grief, it's love, too. We can reclaim what's ours if rallying to her resolve. Leo joined her, his energy bolstering mine. Together we forged a beacon amidst the darkness. These memories don't define us, and they certainly don't diminish our power to shine." We paused, locking eyes with me. "We carry forth their light into the world, not their pain." Those words resonated across the dark expanse. A thrum pulsed through me, igniting a fire within my soul. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, pulling away slightly as waves of warmth surged from our united front. I could feel love enveloping the space, radiant and defiant against the encroaching gloom. "That we are nothing without our shared experiences." I spoke, my voice surging through newfound clarity. "Without laughter, without those fleeting moments, these shadows are just echoes of the past. They cannot distract us from the bonds we built in the light." As the shadows writhed restlessly, an unexpected flicker caught my eye. Through the tumult, figures emerged, faces of those who stood with me through trials and triumphs, arms outstretched. They bore no bitterness, only lovey and unwavering presence in this storm of darkness. They were the unexpected heroes we had become, forged in suffering yet cloaked in unity. Together, we're stronger, Max said softly, his determination igniting the air like wildfire. Let's take this burden and rise above. I nodded, our hands tightened together, creating a human chain of conviction rooting deeper into the earth. The pressure of the past clashed against the promise of the future, but a new light beckoned amidst our shared clamor. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward, but instead of consuming us, they wrapped around our collective light. They melted like wax under fire, transforming from oppressive darkness into shimmering patterns across our skin, outlining insignias of belonging, a reminder that our scars were part of a roadmap leading to healing. But then, just as a breakthrough felt possible, a chilling laughter erupted from within the depths. You think you've outsmarted the shadows, that you can just walk away? We are the truth you choose to ignore, the part of you too fragile to accept. A figure began to rise amidst the swirling darkness, shrouded in an aura so intimate it sent chills racing down my spine. The face slowly emerged from the shadows, revealing not a stranger, but someone I recognized all too well, my own reflection, distorted, yet painfully familiar. It can't be, I whispered, fear washing over me. I was being confronted by the embodiment of all my insecurities, the ghost of the person I was ashamed to acknowledge. No, not like this. With rising panic, I felt tethered to the moment, the truth of them striking sharper than ever, threatening to unearth everything I had tried to suppress. But even amidst that fear came a glimmer of hope. In the darkest corners of my heart, I understood now that acknowledgement didn't mean surrender, it meant healing. And as my doppelganger stepped closer, radiant and dark, the energy surged even more, merging shadows and light in a dance I had yet to comprehend. Now you must choose, the figure whispered, wavering between familiar warmth and sorrowful coldness. Will you parley with your truth and invite it into the light, or will you flee, allowing the shadows to haunt you still? My heart thundered as the decision loomed ahead. Would I dare confront this aspect of myself to truly break free? I feared what I might unearth, yet I could feel the presence of my friends behind Meteor's steadfast belief igniting courage within me. With a breath to steady my rising pulse, I took a firm step forward, ready to embrace the truth that lay shrouded in the darkest recess of my soul. The air crackled with tension as I stood before the mirror-like visage of my own fragmented self. Shadows danced in the periphery, whispering taunts that chilled me to the bone. Abandonment, failure, loss, they echoed incessantly, trying to claw back the warmth that kindled inside me. But in the realest sense, perhaps that shadowy reflection was the last barrier I needed to dismantle. Why are you afraid? It asked, the voice enveloping me in a shroud of doubt that pressed heavy against my chest. You've run and hidden, but the truth remains: the people you lost, the love you couldn't save. You've seen only the pain. My heart struggled under the weight of resentment I had locked away. I didn't lose them willingly. I cried, my voice trembling. Life shouldn't be defined by what was taken. It's about what's ahead and who remains beside us. The figure's laughter twisted in the air, the sound simultaneously alluring and horrifying. They moved on, didn't they? They left you just like they always were meant to. In that chilling moment, my breath caught as painful memories flooded back. Friends, once so dear, drifting away like leaves in autumn. Romances that flickered out, replaced by silence. It wasn't just them. It was my heart, my capacity to maintain connections through struggle that felt impossibly weak. The shame of not being enough throbbed angrily in my veins. Even now, as you seek to push me away, I am you. We are intertwined, it hissed, needle-like anger slicing through the haze. Can you hear it? The stillness? They are all gone. But suddenly, amidst the abyss of despair, fragments of light crystallized, tethered to the faces I had conjured from the shadows earlier. Nina, Leo, Max. Why had I doubted their strength? We shared laughter, tears, resilience, and in that, there was salvation. The mere thought of them tethered hope to my heart. Drawing strength from those luminous recollections, I found my voice rising, quivering yet resolute. You're wrong. They may not always be present, but I hold their love. They don't define my worth or my capacity to love further my reflection faltered, tilting its head, an indication of surprise that reverberated through the darkness surrounding us. You think that holding on to joy means abandoning grief? It questioned, shifting and reshaping dense glimmers. You think they coexist? They do. I have chosen to weave both together. With every joy shared, I grow. With every loss endured, I learn, I declared, feeling the warmth spread, growing bolder like an ember kindled into a flame. I can mourn their absence without allowing it to poison my present. Focusing on the heartbeats of my friends behind me, I exhaled and stepped toward my reflection, surrendering my heart to the inevitable risk. And yes, I do miss them every day, but I refuse to let that absence consume who I am. You cannot trap or cage me because of it. Suddenly, warmth surged like an electrical current, pulsating through the air and breaking the silence. The shadows shimmered, flickering against the weight of raw emotion as courage began to sweep through me, burning brightly against the chilling grasp of despair. Ah, but this is where I live. My doppelganger spat back, a mirror of sorrow laced with bitterness. In the fragments you've pushed away lies your true essence, yet you fear connecting with it. I could feel the weight of its words attempting to bind me. But behind me, Leo stepped forward, a leader among allies. You have a family, he called out, his voice firm. A family forged not in blood, but in shared scars and laughter. Stand firm. You carry them within you, and together, we'll help you reclaim everything. What can they offer? The figure sneered, its voice boiling with malice, slicing through the emotional ether between us. They, too, will leave you. Maybe, I admitted, unwavering as I looked into the depths of my own discouragement. But that's part of life. Connections can be fleeting. Suffering doesn't negate love, it magnifies it. The bonds we create form our light amidst despair, guiding us through. As the shadows writhed, my reflection began to soften, and cracks emerged beneath the weight of their own fury. I could sense how tangible fear unwound into something softer, a longing for connection instead of abandonment. Amidst the growing light, the resonant sounds of laughter filled the air, my friends slowly, steadily stepping beside me. Together, our hands intertwining, we encircled the darkness that flickered under our relentless hope. The shadows reverberated as if caught in a whirlpool of emotions, the struggle highlighting both fear and the urgent need for forgiveness. Together, we resonate with every shadow, Max chimed in, a soft smile gracing his lips. We are whole because of the tears, and we are light because of the love that persists. Don't fear the truth, it set us free. Behind us, the cavern expanded, revealing wisps of warmth that began to intertwine with the shadows, creating a dance that sparkled with promise. Yet, just as the light began to envelop the darkness, a sudden shriek punctured through the air, of visceral sound echoing through our spirits. We turned, dread washing over us. The walls trembled with the fury of the shadows. They recoiled like an angry serpent poised to strike. A dark vortex coalesced in the center, swallowing the warmth that lingered, dragging it back into the maw of despair. We will not let you leave this place, the shadows bellowed, a fierce undertone echoing against the confines of our surroundings. We are your fears, and you belong with us. With every ounce of strength, a primal roar resonated from the depths of my being. No, this time, we choose differently. You are not bound to your despair. But suddenly, the pulsing shadows unveiled a terrible reality. Not just my fears, but the faces of all who had touched my life, entwined with pain, bore witness to the confrontation. There, standing at the edges of despair, were those I had cherished, mixed in the shadow and flicker as if waiting for my next move. Panic surged as they reached out in unison, their eyes pleading and hollow. You cannot escape us, they cried in agony. A sudden, horrifying realization gripped me. Shadows were not just darkness. They represented the weight of my own decisions, memories, and the embodiment of every relationship that had once faltered. Each face bore a truth I couldn't bear, all woven into the dark silhouette of my essence. Please, I whimpered, reaching for them. How could I ever abandon what once was? Yet, as I took a step toward that haunting tapestry of sorrow, I hesitated, fear clutching my heart once more. What happened if the cost of truth was too high? Behind me, my friends called my name, an eruption of warmth countering the chill. Their familiarity rekindled the resolve that melted through my uncertainty. Surely, if together we embraced the past, we could navigate the future. With trembling hands and racing heart, I prepared to confront that reflection once more, this time ready to embrace every fragile truth in the spectrum of my existence. You cannot take me. You do not define me. This is where our journey begins, bathed in shadows and illuminated by love. Just as I took that brave step forward, the shadows surged, swallowing the light entirely. The howl of memories and ghosts intertwined, leaving us on the precipice of something unfinished and terrifying. And in that moment, a dreadful thought accelerated my racing mind. The love I thought would hold me could now just as easily shatter as I stepped into the unknown. Would this moment mark my redemption, or would it set me adrift in the tumultuous storm of shadows? With one final surge of courage, I let my heart shatter all over again and called, "Am ready to see what I've hidden away." The shadows advanced, swirling like a tempest eager to consume me. Each tendril coiled around my limbs, carrying the weight of memories I had tried so hard to escape. Fear gripped my chest, threatening to crush the fragile resolve that had sparked within me just moments ago. But even as I stood on the precipice, my friends rallied beside me, their unwavering presence igniting a flicker of hope. With each pulse of darkness looming, I drew strength from the bond we had forged. Together, I shouted, grasping their hands, feeling our collective warmth rise against the encroaching chill. We formed a barrier, tethered by the understanding that our struggles ran deep, and beneath our scars lay an unbreakable spirit we could wield together. "Remember," Leo urged, his voice steady, "it's not just our pain, it's our love that gives us power. Embrace it." In that moment of solidarity, I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply. The air around me vibrated with energy, a testament to the lives that swelled within the shadows, waiting to be acknowledged. I felt the fear dissipate just long enough for clarity to settle over me. With renewed vigor, I faced the relentless storm. Every moment, every connection, I called, my voice resonating in the darkness. "They've shaped us. You may be the shadows of my past, but you're not my future." A thunderous chorus erupted from the darkness, a cacophony of rage and despair that rattled the ground beneath us. But even as the shadows shrieked their fury, something began to shift. Flickers of light sparked in the darkness, illuminating faces of all who had walked beside me, joy of laughter, the warmth of love intertwining with the sorrow of loss. "Look," I cried, the realization exploding within me like fireworks in an endless night. "They don't define us, they complete us. There's beauty in our struggles, beauty in our grief." The shadows hesitated, and I pressed on, emboldened by the shared spirit of belonging and connection. We can acknowledge the pain and still rise above it. We are intertwined, a mosaic of strength and love that can weather any storm. As if compelled by my defiance, the shadows recoiled, revealing flickering hints of the light seeping around us, weaving through the frayed edges of darkness. I remembered every cherished moment, every heartfelt laugh, and at once, the faces of those now lost mingled with those still present. It was no longer about spiraling into grief. It was about embracing the lessons they imparted and allowing their love to fortify my heart. "We honor them," Max added, his voice a rallying cry, one that reverberated through the depths of despair. "Not by living in their absence, but by carrying their memories forward." As our voices rose, a luminous wave surged, swallowing the shadows in unabashed brightness. The wails of anguished memories transformed, morphing into echoes of laughter, triumph resonating in my ears as flickers of joy replaced the warmth of despair. My heart swelled as I began to perceive the transformation taking place. "Embrace who you are," I yelled into the depth of the tempest, feeling every soul entwined with mine press forward. This storm doesn't define our worth. Our rise from it does. And just then, something miraculous happened. The shadows began to retract, their grip loosening, swirling back into the void from whence they came. A gentle warmth enveloped me, and I sensed something far more profound than fear, understanding. Each shadow released the grip of worry and despair, revealing not just the chains of the past, but the defining moments that had shaped our strength. The crowd of shadows thinned out, unveiling an expanse of shifting colors and azure sky, rich hues of twilight, a vibrant sunset wrapping us in its embrace. The essence of those wed lost drifted forward, their faces illuminated by the glow of shared recognition. I wanted to cry as the haunting memories of abandonment now danced with the confirmation of love, the realization that they would always be part of me, never fully gone. This is it, I breathed softly, standing taller with every heartbeat as. Together we embraced the truth. The power to rekindle connections, to rise above. We've conquered the shadows together. The last tendrils of darkness dissipated, carried away by the intoxicating scent of possibility that filled the air. I could feel every friend's heartbeat, their strength pulsing through the air like an unbreakable tether. And in those final breaths of chaos, the shadows, once devouring, now drifted away into the dawn that promised new beginnings, healing, and light. As we stood, arms linked, surrounded by the golden embrace of the rising sun, I felt transformed. Yes, fear no longer clutched at my heart. Instead, I felt the warmth of love take its place, the echo of every moment that shaped my journey coursing through my veins. The storm had faded, leaving behind remnants of my past just as it had promised. Yet, I knew in my soul that every shadow had now become a testament to my resilience. I exhaled, releasing what could have held me captive, and embraced each connection that remained, both in memories and in presence, that we are the heroes of our own journeys. I whispered, feeling my heart bloom with gratitude. Not because we've never stumbled, but because we choose to rise. As the sun set low, painting the horizon with colors of every hue, a single thought nestled in my mind, an acknowledgement of the path I had traveled, and I was at peace knowing that love was not merely found in the fleeting, but lived in the endless embrace of family forged from shadows and light alike. The storm might have raged, leaving destruction in its wake, but we had emerged whole, stronger, and forever transformed. And with a heart that soared amidst the increasing glow, I realized that from the explosive depths of sorrow, I had seen the dawn of a new beginning waiting patiently at the edge of the horizon.